This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, from a crisp Sabi Sands. It is quite chilly this morning, but there's at least an air of excitement because, well, we already have fresh tracks for a leopard walking straight through our camp. So we're going to try to see if we can find him. Before we get into all of that and what we're going to get up to this morning, my name is Tristan. On camera, I have got BK. BK, you well this morning? Sleep well? Good, excellent. It is a wonderful way to start our day when you see leopard tracks, but those leopard tracks, I'm afraid, could be for Tingana, but I'm just trying to see where they go because they go through our camp and I haven't seen them come out yet, so just going to have a look around. Now, of course, it is the start of the drive, which means that we are dedicating the first 45 minutes to all the kids that are joining us from around the world. It's a very warm welcome to all of you. Remember that you can ask lots and lots of questions. Don't worry if you think that they're silly. You're welcome to ask, and you can use kids' questions at wildearth.tv. And we hopefully will answer as many as we can. Now, what I'm trying to work out with this leopard is which way it was going, but I have a funny feeling that the leopard came around the camp and back again because there was a report of a large cat. No one saw if it was a lioness or a male leopard crossing the dam wall where the dam cam is at about 4 o'clock this morning. And the track for this leopard comes down from Vuyatela access, so from the west coming east and then cuts north through our camp. Now, if it was a leopard that crossed the dam wall, what could have happened is he could have come through around the camp and then back down and then down Twin Dams Road, or it could be two different leopards, or a lioness and a leopard. So what we're trying to do is just ascertain which one is which. Normally, it's Tingana that walks through the camp. I would be very, very shocked if this was Mulawati that had come through. It is the typical Tingana walking path that he takes. He comes straight down through the camp, past the garage where the vehicles are, and then past our new rooms towards Gallagher Pan. So I'm just checking this area just to see if I can pick up any sign of his tracks. If there's nothing here, then I know he's turned and gone back towards the dam wall. But David is out and about, so I'm going to just ask him to check that side, and hopefully between the two of us, we can find this cat somewhere here. Anyway, talking about David, he is out and about, and he does want to say good morning, so let's send you across to him.
And a very good morning it is. We're starting it the right way, watching the most beautiful sunrise that you can get, an African sunrise. My name is David Hancock. On camera we have Alex this morning, and together we're going to explore. We're just waiting for our bones to warm up a little bit. Having a little listen. We've just been sitting on this high point up on quarantine. Watching this beautiful view. Always been my favorite time of the day, sunrises and sunsets. It's so far away, yet it's so powerful, so bright. Alex has made it so that you can kind of look at it on the camera, but definitely can't look anywhere near it now. It's just becoming blazingly bright. So much power in the sun. It's incredible to me how the distance from Earth to sun is just perfect. Just where it needs to be to sustain life, to have us at the perfect temperature. Trish, you've commented what a beautiful sunrise this is. It is indeed. It's like I say, the best way to start the morning. Added bonus if you've got a good cup of coffee or tea or whatever warm thing that you drink. Luckily it's not as cold as it was yesterday morning. I do believe our cold front is coming. Apparently it's supposed to get very cold here middle of the week. Well, very cold to us. Relatively probably not very cold at all to a lot of viewers who are used to much colder climates. We're a little bit spoiled out here in the low veld with our temperatures. Beautiful. Well, it's time to get moving. Haven't heard much, haven't heard any audio. But we would like to maybe see if we can follow up on the Nkuhumas from last night. Perhaps they were successful in their hunt, and that would be an added bonus for this morning. So let's get going. Well, it's not only us again this morning. Ngala is also out and on drive, so let's send you over to them to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari from this side and beyond Ngala. My name is Rowan. Behind the camera, I've got Owen Dahl, or OD for short. Our plan for this morning is just to bumble around a little bit, let it cool down, let it warm up just a bit more, and then we're going to head into the Timbavati River. We want to see if we can find the young lioness with her cubs. It's been nearly a week since I've seen those youngsters now, so I'm craving a little lion cub. But yeah, we're heading actually in a westerly direction away from the sun. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sunrise. I think David showed you, but let me show you from the and beyond Ngala side. That is just stunning. Nice marula tree there in front, as one should. Yeah, very chilly this morning. You can see I'm wearing gloves and a beanie. But yeah, wow. Nice warm glow to it. So we sat in a clearing for a little while just to listen out to the bush, see if we can hear any leopard rasping or any lions roaring. And there was nothing so far. So like I said, our plan is just to let it warm up a little bit before we drop into the Timbavati riverbed, and we'll actually drive that back east to see if we can find the young lioness and her two cubs. She might have moved her den site again, she might not have. We just haven't seen her in quite some time. So yeah, we're going to leave the beautiful sunrise behind us and start heading west. Just so far, a quiet morning. The only thing we've really been hearing are impalas fighting and ratting. A few horns clashing, but otherwise not too much. Haven't seen a zebra or giraffe, although the direction we're going in should be a lot of plains game, a lot of zebra, a lot of wildebeest, maybe some giraffe. We're going through a big section of knob thorns. Oh, Megan, it's your birthday. Very happy birthday, Megan. I'm glad you enjoyed the sunrise. Talking about birthdays, I hope someone's baking you a cake. Apparently, we are getting a cake from the Juna, the final control room. So I think Emma and Landeka are supposed to get us a cake soon. So Megan, I hope you're getting a cake as well. Landeka, I'm sure you heard that. We're still waiting for our cake. We were discussing it last night. You better make it a big one because you need to feed about 10 or 11 people. So yeah. Time's ticking though. Whenever you guys are ready, I'm ready for that cake. But Megan, very happy birthday. Landeka's passing the bat and she says, I'm gonna let Emma know. So I think the cake is Emma's problem now. Oh, Landeka, while you're on it, make sure it's a chocolate cake. Hey, chocolate, yeah. Okay, even Owen agrees. Caramel and chocolate cake. Okay. Perfect. I mean, it's 20 to 7 in the morning and we're discussing chocolate and caramel cake. Whew. Oh, we get to choose how many cakes we would like. Well, let's see. One for me, one for Sean, one for Owen, one for Nikki, one for Eric. Need to feed Theo and Dennis and David. Yarpy can't go without a cake. I don't know if Yarpy's a big cake guy. Actually, get one for Yarpy. Maybe, yeah, Landeka, 10. Let's make it a nice round number, 10. And they don't have to be huge. Like, that size is fine. For Owen wants one a little bit bigger. Steering wheel size. I've got the sniffles this morning. It is really actually very cold. You can see it's the first morning I'm wearing a beanie over my hat. So it's not really working too well. My earlobes are hanging in the wind. Even Nancy is saying dessert for breakfast is perfect. Nancy, I agree with you. Dessert should be any time of the day, any meal of the day. We have a tracker here called Fani. And Fani used to say, never trust a man who don't eat cake. I'm with you, Fani. Absolutely agree. Some spurfowl. You can see it's a little, it was a male. He puffed himself up. He's to the right now. And he's chasing some of the youngsters. Now the youngsters are just running parallel to him. So often what happens when we drive, they come running out the grass into the open. And of course, they don't want to, skid off to the side because the grass is so tall. They don't know what's on the other side. So sometimes what you'll do if they're running in front of the vehicle, you'll actually speed up so everyone can fly off at the same time. Otherwise, what you end up doing is you split up families like this, because as you saw, 3 of them already split to the right, and now 3 of them are still running on the ground. So when you do drive faster, it's not like you're trying to kill them or anything. You just want them to fly up quicker. You can see that very red face of the Swainson spurfowl. Actually catching the sunlight quite nicely. They're the ones that will stand on the top of a branch or a tree or a termite mound and just shout their heads off. To me, it always sounds like almost a bossy toad. Can you imagine one of those cartoons where there's a big toad or bullfrog, really, just shouting at everyone? You can actually hear them in the back. But still nothing else. No leopards rasping, no lions roaring. Okay. Okay. Right, so we are going to continue, wait for the warmth to kick in. For now, send you back to David. Apparently he is tracking.
Well, we just got out of the vehicle quickly to have a look at these tracks. It looks like possibly Tingana that's come past here. And I was just following down here. I just wanted to see which direction he took. But there are some birds going crazy down on the drainage line there, so I think we should probably head down there. His tracks don't come along the road here any further, so he's probably cut in here again. This is interesting. Now, there's another set of leopard tracks coming up, but I wonder if this... this looks a little bit older. I think this was from yesterday. Lots of interpretation in tracking. You really got to stay sharp. Can't assume anything, because the bush likes to prove you wrong. Let's just go down and have a look there in the drainage line. See what those birds are calling. I'd like to show you this beautiful track, but it's gonna be a little tough. Wonder if you can get that one there, Alex. Over here. Yeah, a beautiful leopard track. Nice and crisp. I do believe there was a leopard spotted on dam cam earlier hours of this morning. And that was probably the track left, so let's carry on. I know Tristan's already done the Buffelshoek boundary, hasn't seen them crossing out, so hopefully still inside Juma. Of course, like I say, it's never a perfect science. You could cross out on a very rocky area where the tracks don't show, but all we can do is try, and while we try, we'll no doubt find other cool and interesting things to enjoy. Ruben, good morning. You're 12 years old. Thanks for watching the show. I'm going to talk to you while I get off and have a look here, because now there's tracks crossing back the other way, so I just want to make sure I'm not heading in the wrong direction. You're asking, how can I tell the age of a leopard track? And with tracking, there's different ways to tell the age. You can never get within the minute, but you can get pretty close, generally within a couple hours. And the easiest way is to get to learn the other factors in the bush that will influence the sand and the soils that these animals are walking on. So first of all, I know that we drove down this road last night, so any tracks on top of my tire tracks means that it's since last night. And then to narrow it down some more, you can take note of the external weather factors, so moisture and rain and wind. Those will have an effect on a track. If it's rainy or if it's very windy, then a track won't last very long. It won't stay nice and crisp. It'll get very dull and eventually go away completely. So if it's been rainy or windy and the track is still very crisp, then you know that it was very recent. And then we use other factors like bird tracks and insect tracks. We get to know which species move when. And if those bird or insect tracks are over the animal or the leopard's track, then you can kind of say, well, maybe not, might not be so old. Many different ways. And here's Tristan out tracking. We're both working on this one together. Bumpy, bumpy. Fiona, age 6, you've asked how long can a leopard live? And I will answer that question shortly. Tristan, there's those tracks cross down and then cross up again, so I'm not too sure, but going down and going up. And I heard alarm call. Did you hear those birds in the drainage line? Okay, I'm just going to run this again now. There were some... Okay. Perfect. Good luck. I'm just having a little team meeting about how to follow up on this leopard. Fiona, you asked how long leopard live, and it depends very much on, in my experience, male or female, the density of leopard in the area, meaning how many leopard there are, how much food's available, if they have to compete very heavily for food and fight for their food, or if food is easy for them to find. But generally out here I'd say around 12 years old, in my experience. Our big cats don't live as long as the big animals like elephant and rhino and hippo. We're going to continue on slowly down this road, see if there's any tracks crossing over. Otherwise, we're going to go down into the drainage and see what we can find. But while we do that, let's send you over to Tswalu to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone, from another glorious day in the Kalahari. Yandre and I, we had a good rest last night, so we're ready to tackle this day. And I think we're just going to spend a couple of minutes enjoying the sunrise, just listening to the sounds instead of the sound of my voice. And then we're going to chat about these nests a little bit later in this tree over here. I love sunrise at Tswalu. It's just, these Kalahari landscapes just really lend themselves to it. So when it gets a little bit lighter, we're going to chat about these bird nests that you may be able to see silhouetted in this tree here. They're called white-browed sparrow weavers. And there's one calling off to our left over here now. Morning, thanks Dragon. Remember we were saying yesterday about the cold front moving in? So these clouds, from where we're sitting, you can actually see they're coming in from the south now. So they've actually switched direction. Yesterday it was coming in from the east and southeast. Now they've switched, moving in from the south, and that's where our cool weather comes from. So the temperature had already dropped by about 3 degrees this morning since yesterday morning. So I think tomorrow is going to be an interesting one in terms of temperature. Yeah. Morning, Ruben. We don't have the big five. The only one that we're missing of the big five are elephants. And this environment is a very, very difficult environment for elephants to survive in. And that have a very, very big impact on the vegetation. So we'd actually, we'd prefer not having elephants here. And they also, even historically, would very, very, very seldom have actually occurred in this area. At best, they would have moved in and moved out again. So, but all the other big five we've got, and hopefully over the next couple of days and weeks, we're actually going to be able to show you some of those animals. Thank you for that good question. Nice and peaceful, eh? Elashka, this is a private reserve, but interestingly, it's bigger than many of our national reserves, certainly within South Africa. And hopefully you'll be able to visit it one day. It's just great that you guys can actually join us while we're out here and see what we've got to offer. It's very, very special. You can hear a turtle dove calling to the right, softly. I don't know if you can hear that, but they go, or we say, work harder, work harder, work harder. We're just waiting for a little bit more light. In about 10 minutes, then we'll be able to chat about these nests in this tree over here. They're quite interesting. So while we're waiting for a bit more light, I think head over to David and see what they've got on their side.
Well, nothing just yet. Just very slowly moving down this road to try and intercept whatever made those birds' alarm call. It may be futile. I may be intercepting a snake, which would be rather hard to see in this thick grass. But it is always worth having a look. These leopard have been very good at evading us these last couple of days. We have got to win at some stage in this game of tag. Tangana walked straight through the camp last night. Oh, I didn't know his tracks, just knew his tracks. Almost as if taunting us. Come on, old boy, is that all you got? He reckons we are not doing too well at finding him, but he is a leopard after all. and his strengths are stealth and camouflage. Mia Ray, age 10, you've asked how long do leopard tracks stay on the road for? And they can stay pretty long. Like we were chatting about earlier with the tracking and how we track. If it's really nice weather, like in the winter when there's not much moisture and dew, not much wind, and there's no one driving on the road, then that track will stay there for 2-3 weeks sometimes even. If the leopard stood in some soft mud that then dries out, then that track can be there for many months. So it depends very much on the soil and on the weather. Molly, you're age 14. Thank you for your question. You've asked how do we recognize the prides and how do we recognize the different leopard? And that just comes with time. So spending a lot of time with them. Someone like Tristan, who's been working out here for many years, he just gets to know these animals similar in the way that you would get to know animals that you see very often. You get to notice little marks on them, or maybe scars, or just a specific facial feature, size. Talking now specifically about leopard that are generally on their own. And then you would also take into account where these animals are. So if you know their territories, like Tristan does, then if your leopard is seen in that territory, then you immediately checks male or female and can kind of decide which leopard it might be. And then when it comes to the prides, there's not that many prides. There's only a few in the area. I think it's the Evokers and the Birmingham, Evokers and the Kahumas and the Torchwood Pride. I think the Birminghams are on Ngala side. And their numbers generally vary. The amount of females to males to cubs generally varies. And obviously their territories vary. So if you know your area, you know where you are, and you've spent enough time with them, then you are able to normally ascertain or figure out which is which. Well, we're going to continue on our tracking, and also tracking is Tristan, so let's send you over to him and see how he's going.
We are indeed. We're trying to kind of do this together between David and I and just try and figure out exactly what's going on, because there are a multitude of different tracks going in quite opposite directions at the moment. And while I think it is the same animal that's doing it, I just want to figure out which one are the freshest. So we know for sure that the tracks that come over the dam wall are from 4 o'clock this morning. What we don't know is, does that animal turn and come up onto quarantine and then north through our camp, or is the ones going north through our camp prior to this one coming over the dam wall? So that's what we're trying to establish at the moment and trying to figure out. It's going to obviously be a little bit of a process of elimination, and we've just got to try and kind of go back and forth a little bit until we can actually see which tracks are the freshest, and which ones are actually working for us, and why we kind of how we're going to do that is essentially we know that the tracks go up that way. Now if that leopard crossed the wall at 4 o'clock, it's either got to have walked from there around, or it's got to have walked from this way up. And so we should then cut a track somewhere to be able to indicate that it came from that direction to there, and then I know north is better. Or if we can't find anything cutting up this way back to the set of tracks that are coming down the access and through the camp, then I know that those are the older ones and these are the fresher ones. So that's what we're busy with right now, is just trying to eliminate and just work out exactly which ones are the right ones. David's kind of continuing on those ones while I do the broader loop, which is probably the best way to do this. Between us, we'll be able to hopefully find where this male went. I'm sure he's here somewhere. 4 o'clock's not that long ago. Although a male leopard in 2 hours can seriously move if he wants to. Male leopards are amazing in their ability to cover ground. So we'll have to have a look. But there was also a female leopard there. I don't know if anybody saw her crossing the dam wall, but there was a female leopard that went over the dam wall as well last night. Because when I was looking at the tracks on the opposite side of the dam wall, I was thinking to myself, this track is not for him. Because there's a place where he goes and scent marks, and there's a female track coming off that exact same bush. And I thought to myself, it doesn't look like a male track, but turns out it was a female, because then I saw the tracks on the other side of the dam going that direction. Hi, hyenas, must you take things from bins and deposit them in the bush? Let's just get rid of that. We don't want things lying around. Definitely hyenas involved in the depositing of that particular piece. Okay, so there's no tracks coming this way, which means that this leopard had to either have done a massive loop around, which I doubt, or the tracks going down Twin Dams Road are the freshest. So by here we should have picked up him coming out. So I just want to check one more game path just down at the bottom here. So Samara, you're asking about how you learn to identify paw prints or prints in general, and the different types. So every animal's got a slightly unique set of paws, and so much like our hands, if you have any siblings or your mom or your dad and you put your hands next to each other and look at them, you'll see that they're all different. And it's the same for animals. Their paws are exactly the same. They all have a different way that they are structured. They have different sized toes, different sized pads, and so that helps us to be able to recognize the different types of paw prints that we're seeing. Now, if it comes to species, lion, leopard, cheetah, these kind of things, each one has got a unique thing that can make you recognize that it is a lion print or a leopard print or a cheetah print. So cheetah would have claws, lions are really, really big, and if there's small prints that are the size of a leopard, then generally they're cubs that are being accompanied by their moms, and so you'd know then, okay, mom's prints would be nearby, whereas leopard generally on its own. So those are kind of the things that you can use, but like I say, every animal's got a slightly different look about their paw prints, and even within leopards, each leopard's paw print will be slightly different. You will then have to start measuring the toes, measuring the pads, the width, the length, and then you can start actually IDing the different individuals just off of their paw prints, which is pretty incredible. So it's a bit of a science, but the more you practice it, the easier it becomes at actually seeing the difference between all the animals and even the individuals themselves. Okay, we're going to go back to those last tracks, going to just double check them and see where they go. In the meantime though, I'm going to send you back across to David, who's got an animal that I'm sure he's wishing would bark at him.
Well, we do have an animal, a very graceful animal. None other than a beautiful Inyala bull. Remember we had Inyala bull yesterday at the dam. This one is even bigger by the looks of it. Beautiful big horns. I love an Inyala's horns. I really like that white line between their eyes. Just makes their face so striking. Very distinctive coloration in an Inyala. Kind of looks like a bird sat on that back and left a surprise rolling down the side, but it's not that. Those stripes are there for a purpose, and that purpose is to camouflage the animal, break up its pattern. So instead of being one big dark blob that'll stand out in the winter bush, those stripes help break it up. Give it a mottled or a dappled effect, meaning not a solid color, but kind of like a bush. No set structure. There's leaves and branches and different dimensions almost to it, so harder to see. This is our theory, at least. Perhaps a good part of the reason that it's got those stripes is it's just beautiful. Shoot, you've asked how much of alarm calling is actually alarm calling. Well, alarm calls are always alarm calls. I suppose you're asking for how much of it is actually for a predator. And it'll always be for a predator, something perceived by the animal to be a predator. I suppose it depends on the animal making the call. You know, an impala is not going to alarm call for a raptor like a squirrel would, or a mongoose would. So I suppose the larger the animal, in my experience, the better the indication. Let's specifically talk about leopard, because that seems to be all we're trying to find this morning. An impala alarm calling and looking in a certain direction and doing their typical alarm calling would make me far more convinced that there's a leopard over there than a squirrel just chattering away. Although many a leopard has been found by following up on the alarm calling of a squirrel, but a squirrel's obviously a lot smaller, so it'll be just as petrified as a big python or a raptor as it would be of a leopard. But to answer your question, shoot, all alarm calling is alarm calling for a predator, perceived or not perceived. Often alarm calls will be for humans walking through the bush when we're on bushwalk. Often get many things alarm calling at your presence. Obviously we're not a predator, but we are perceived as a predator. So no hard and fast rules, just gotta keep trying, keep following up, and keep learning as we go. You never quite know what's gonna meet you. Well, Mr. Inyala has pulled his socks up high this morning. Nice and cold in the grass. But speaking about cold, why don't we send you over to Tswalu and see what they're up to.
So the breeze is picking up here a little bit, So I think the meerkats this morning are going to come out a little bit later than they did yesterday. But Jandra and I, we're going to head down there just now. But I've got a question, especially for the young viewers this morning. Again, what I want to try to do over the next couple of weeks, I want to do like a question a day, or more. But we'll start off with a question a day, and I'll give you some time to think about it while we're going to talk about some birds. The question this morning is, any idea what this track is? I'll give you one vague clue, and in terms of size. Now just think of big animals that occur in these savanna areas. That's the only clue. And what I'm going to do to give you an idea of the size of it, I'm going to put my foot next to it. Okay. So there's the size of my foot. But you can think about your answers. You don't need to give them immediately. Think about it, and I'm going to show you these nests briefly. Okay, we've got some really cool nests above us. So think about the answer for that track. So there you go. Jandre's got these nests really nicely in frame over here. Quite untidy little nests. But these birds that make these are called white-browed sparrow weavers. White-browed sparrow weavers. And they're pretty funky little birds for a lot of different reasons. But for today, I'll just chat about the actual nest design as opposed to all different other aspects of their biology and that. So if you check out these nests, a lot of them, like this one here, you'll see it's got an entrance here, okay? But it's also got an entrance on this side, at the back. So it's actually got, you can't see it so well over there, but it's got two entrances to this nest. And the idea there is that you've got one pair of birds, so you got two adults, and then you got a whole lot of helpers of their previous youngsters that will reside in a colony like this, and they all help to build these nests. But only that one pair breed, okay? And out of all of these nests, you'll just have one nest. When they start laying eggs, they'll actually close up that back entrance. So the thinking there is, if a predator comes along, like a snake, okay, he goes into this nest, nothing. The birds fly out the other side. Goes into another nest, nothing. The birds fly out the other side. No. So he'd actually, if he wanted to get chicks or eggs, he'd have to check every single one of these nests. So the idea there is that hopefully the snake or the predator, whatever it is, actually gives up before it actually gets that nest. Yeah, of course, he could like get lucky on that first one and say, well, geez, here's some chicks. And that's kind of that war between, or that arms race between predator and prey. You know, it's like, what strategies can you use to avoid predation? And what strategies can you use to actually increase your chance of being able to catch something? So that's just an interesting thing on these nests over here. Any answers on this track? Any suggestions? You know the size of it from my footprint. It's about the length of my footprint. And then the other clue that I gave you is it's a big mammal that occurs in savanna areas. Louis D. Lion, it's not right, but a good attempt, but it's not rhino. And there's no rush, eh? You guys. Alex, you are the winner this morning. This is a giraffe track. Well done. Good job. And it was actually, interestingly, going in the same direction as I placed my foot. So it was heading off towards the west, going in that direction. So very, very good job. Well done, Alex. Let's head on and see if we can get those meerkats before they get out of bed. It's going to take a little while to get down there. So we must just be patient. We'll amble along slowly. Jandre's got all his kits sorted. I'm sorted. And look at that sunrise. Wow. Wyatt, thanks for that question. Do we have fire ants at Tswalu? We don't have fire ants, but we have a huge diversity of ants. We've recorded over 50 different kinds of ants at Tswalu, and of those 50, a number of them, I suppose you could call them fire ants because they can sting. I mean, a lot of ants, because remember, ants are related to bees and wasps, and so a lot of them can sting, but from what I've heard of fire ants, we have nothing that approaches that here. So our ants are actually quite cool. So thanks, good question, Wyatt. Look at that sunrise. That is just drop dead gorgeous, eh? And it's getting warmer now. It's warming up a little bit, so I think Yandra and I, we're going to head down and see if we can have a look at those meerkats. They're still going to be quite a while before they get out of bed, but we're going to take a slow bumble down there. And in the meantime, head over to Ngala and see what they've got there. I think they're going to have some good stuff this morning for you guys. Enjoy.
There's no meerkat here. Guys, so we are in the Timavati River. It's starting to warm up quite nicely. You can see I've taken my beanie off and we are now heading back east. So far no tracks of the lioness here, which is good. But we think, well, we need to head further east because our old den is still about another 2 kilometers around this bend. But there are quite a number of leopard tracks here. So this area is where the New Zulu female would be, the territorial female here. And also her son, the Tswalu male, could be found here, though it's been quite a long time since we've seen him. So we keep looking on the banks and the trees. We checked the pan system, no sign or tracks of him even, but we did find tracks of the New Zulu female. Not the easiest female to find though. Righty. Big buffalo poo, also not too fresh. Actually, you often find buffalo in the river this early in the morning. Also a number of elephant tracks, but no new diggings, no new big holes for them to drink from. Although this early in the morning, I don't think they need water. Just actually rather excited to go around the corner and have the sun heat us up a little bit. Even Owen is dressed quite warmly. He's got a scarf, beanie, 2 jackets. Not our warm morning yet. Yes, play just passed. There's the young nation here, which is one way that live female could going to cross the river. So it's quite nice with the backlight. You can see how she's kicking up the sand every time she walks, and yeah, there comes the baby. See how the tail's twirled up? I'm sorry, I think the image might be a little bit blurry. Londeka just said they are losing signal. So what we might do... Oh, there's an impala as well. I was going to say it's a very small kudu, but then an impala popped out. So what we might do is send you back to Tristan. Okay, so we're not sending you to Tristan. Right, so it's actually quite funny having the two large kudu's walking in front, then the two smaller ones, and then an impala and a baby impala. So it goes from large to small. Of course, it's good for animals to be together. Like more ears, more eyes, more awareness. Especially with kudu. They've got these enormous ears. As you saw, I think, the other day with Sean. So very, very aware of everything that's going on around them. They are more browsers, so they typically feed on the banks of the Tswalu River where there's more thicker vegetation, which is why they need these big ears, so they are currently aware of everything around them. Sky, absolutely everything around here are early risers. Myself and Owen, we're also very, very, very early, and so are all the animals. I think if you come into this industry, actually Sky, even if you visit us, we will force you to wake up at 5 o'clock. Just it's amazing. So you can actually see we've not driven this section of the riverbed in a very long time. It's just tracks everywhere across the whole 2-track of the tires. It's actually very nice to see. I think if we've given it a month. Okay, so we might lose signal in a while, but we're going to continue heading east looking for this lioness. But we'll send you over to David, who's just bumbling around.
Well, we're just on this little slip road in the Moati that has got a tree pushed over the road by an elephant. So just bear with us here while Alex gets slapped in the face. This little road doesn't get used very often, so quite overgrown. This is where we heard those crested Franklin alarm calling. I'm just going to have a stop and a little listen.
Good morning, stations.
Kids session is over. Welcome to all the rest of the viewers. You are now all welcome to send in your questions, but kids still continue to send in questions. Lovely to hear from everyone. Carry on slowly. There's a game path that runs through here that I actually just quickly want to walk over there and have a quick look. BJF, you reckon that these animals are playing hide and seek? Does seem to be the leopard's favorite game. Cat and mouse. I'm not sure if we're the cat or the mouse. And all we've got to work with are the faint impressions that they leave in the sand, in the soil as they walk. The only clue they leave us, but they are the masters. Just having a quick look up here on this high ground. cats really love vantage points. Leopard and lion, when they're walking through the bush, they love to come up onto a high point. And if you're following them through the bush, you'll notice how they always do that. If there's a termite mound or something to climb up, they love just going up there and sitting for a couple moments, having a scan. I suppose it's nice for them to be able to see. But I don't see anything on that game path. Let's continue on slowly. Oh dear, you're 7 years old. Thanks for your question. You've asked, do leopard live alone or in a group? Leopard are solitary cats, so the only cats that actually live in a group are the lion. They live in a pride, and they require strength in numbers. Whereas a leopard are solitary, meaning they're on their own. You'll normally always find leopard on their own, so you'll find a male or a female on their own. Generally you only find two leopard when it's a female and a cub, or occasionally when the leopard are mating, and you'll find them together, of course. But sometimes you find more than that together, especially in the Sabi Sands. I think there's been sightings of up to 7 leopard. I think it was probably on a kill, which is very unusual. Something just ran through the grass here. It's probably a bird. These are two of my favorite trees. When we do bushwalks, I always stop and marvel at these trees. What I love about them is that they have so much mud from elephant walking between them. It's like the perfect distance for a small elephant to squeeze between. And if you look at either of these trees, you'll see that there's lots of mud on them. On my left hand here, as Alex zooms in, you can see all the mud on this tree from an elephant that's been wallowing in the mud. There's a little mud wallow down there. It's now dry, but in the summertime I'll get full of mud and come and rub off on these trees. And this tree's got smooth bark. It's been peeled off on this side, so there's no more bark here. It's just heartwood. I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Alex, and see how smooth it is. So it's just funny to me how I can just imagine an elephant trying to squeeze through here, like almost getting stuck, and then getting its way through, scratching on both sides of its big belly. Very cool. I love how these two trees are right together, how elephants come and push on them. It's almost like they've grown apart over the years of elephants pushing on them at an angle. I call them Samson trees. Oh, still no tracks. Well, sounds like one of my favorite creatures, the monkeys, are out and about. Let's go have a look.
Yeah, so as we rounded the corner, I was saying how excited I was for the sun. And this monkey, as you can see, is just basking in it. It's a male, as you can also see. And yes, those are very blue testicles. I don't think we'll be answering any questions about that. Anyway, just enjoying sunbathing, really just having a good time. You can see it looks quite relaxed. But this is a vervet monkey, in Afrikaans called a blow oppie or blue monkey, exactly for the reason specified. This actually, it's quite strange. There were two big males here. Quite nice to see them together, and it seems like this male was waiting for this smaller one to come join it. It was up in a tree for a little while, and has now come down also into the sun. It was actually very cool. Yeah, see now the males also started to move away, so they'll move away together into the thicket. Cool to see them hop across the long tails and the black tip. I like the way they run. There we go. Very inquisitive, cute little faces, vervet monkeys. But yeah, it was quite nice coming from that side, and we had just one little one run across, and quite from far away, all of us got excited. We think, oh, it's a cub, it's a cub, it's a cub, and then it turned out to be a vervet monkey. But the back glow was actually amazing to see on the little monkey. So of course, if there was this lioness in the area, they would let us know. They'll alarm call, and they sit often in tops of trees when they see predators, and they'll start clicking away, alarm calling at predators, and always looking in that direction. So that's one thing we are focusing for. Capricorn wants to make a joke, absolutely. Which is why I said we're not going to be accepting questions on that matter. Thought I'd just leave it out there. But yeah, the amount of jokes I've heard before from guests, as you can imagine. But definitely one of the first things that stick out when you look at big male vervet monkeys. So we're not too far off from the previous den of this lioness. Still a bit of a bend going on, and then there's a crossing, and she was between this crossing and the next crossing. It's about 1 kilometer to go, but yeah, very, very nice to be driving into the sun and warming up. Also just looking at everything on along the banks of the Timavati River. The most amazing trees here. It's also where we find that young Varro's eagle owl often, so definitely looking for that one. Okay, so it seems like Tristan is still trying to track a leopard, so we're going to send you back over to him to see how he's doing.
I'm actually not on the leopard tracks at the moment. I was doing loops around Dave because just trying to find where this leopard went, and got the whole Nkuhuma Pride's tracks again. So I'm just following them quickly because I see they're on top of buffalo tracks. Oh, they are following a buffalo herd, should I say. And they've walked miles. They went all the way to Nkoro last night, into Torchwood, all the way to the northern boundary of Buffelshoek, and they're now coming south through Djuma and are just heading straight south the whole time. So I'm just trying to see if I can quickly pick these guys up. Unfortunately, I didn't find any tracks for a leopard coming out of the Mulawati, so I suspect that where David is the best place, and I don't want to get in his way either. It's not nice when there's too many vehicles in an area, and so if a guy's tracking, I always like to give them a bit of room to be able to do it. That's why we were doing the bigger loops, just trying to see if we could pick up, you know, any sign of that leopard, but instead we bumped into the lion tracks, so I thought we'd just follow these quickly and just see where they've gone. But I mean, we've literally done the length of Djuma now. I was pretty much picked these up at Buffelshoek Dam. So it gives you an idea of how far these guys have walked through the course of the night. Now, we don't want to repeat performance of yesterday, but I can hardly see a thing to the east. It's incredibly bright. I don't know if we're going to find these lions. We unfortunately are right up against now the Torchwood boundary and going southwards as well. So I just want to quickly check. The guys say that they did the whole of Gary Main this morning, and there was no tracks for her or for the Pride crossing. Let's just check there to see if they didn't cross this side. I don't see their tracks here, so I wonder if they didn't go down Ledwood Road. There's a little open clearing here. They might be lying up there. Also a little bit frustrated because there's a good lesson for everyone out there is to trust your instinct a little bit and to not second guess your plans that you put in place, because I was going to go up to the northern boundary to Sydney's Dam purely because I got a report yesterday that dogs had crossed in from the Manyeleti, not too far north of there, and had I gone there we would have had the dogs. They were seen crossing from Djuma to Sydney's Dam to Manyeleti this morning, but we were just too far away to get anywhere near there, and it was too quick. So if we had gone straight there, we might have had a bit of luck. I was hoping they were going to be lying up here on this little open clearing, but where did you guys go? So Archer, nothing actively hunts lions, so nothing goes and specifically wants to try and hunt them to eat them. But there are other predators that will kill lions, particularly baby lions, or lion cubs, should I say. And that would be hyenas mostly, leopard, but their biggest predator probably is themselves, which sounds funny, but lions kill each other quite a lot. It's a common thing to see lions killing each other. So that's probably their biggest predator, rather than any of the other things out here. No, they haven't come here. So either I've driven past them again, or they've cut back towards Torchwood. Let's go back. Butterfly, judging by how far they've walked, no. So last night we left them obviously because they started going into thickets, and I didn't want to off-road with the cubs in those thickets during the night, because as I was explaining last night, off-roading in thickets attracts the attention of hyenas at night, and when you've got little cubs and things, it's not the right thing to be doing. So that's why we left them. But given how far they've walked, I mean, it's difficult to quantify it, but because I don't know the entire route, but I know that they went from Chitwa to Nkoro, which is far to the east, from Nkoro into Torchwood to all the way to north to the Buffelshoek cut line, from there all the way to Buffelshoek Dam in Djuma, and now we're all the way south, almost back to Gari Main again. So they've done a massive loop as they've been looking for food, and so honestly, I don't think they have caught anything. If they have, it's something very, very small that hasn't kind of sustained their hunger at all. So yeah, I doubt it. I think that they're looking for food. They're on the, like I say, a buffalo's trail. The buffalo tracks aren't fresh, but you know, they still seem to be following the herd's trail at this stage. Just want to quickly check that if they haven't crossed into Torchwood. On this, the other good news that I have, actually, talking about news and different things, the other bit of good news I have is that Tundi was seen last night on Torchwood, so not too far from our boundary, so it might be a worthwhile place. Into Torchwood they go, I'm afraid. They've gone back into Torchwood. You can see all their tracks here going in. BK, probably a bit close, aren't I? Let me try and get a bit further away. So they've unfortunately crossed out, which is not ideal. So there we go. There's all their tracks. You can see quite clearly going through. Now this time I've stopped and scanned to make sure that they're not lying right here, and I'm just saying that they've crossed out, yet they're right there. Looks like they've gone deeper into Torchwood. So that's that, I'm afraid. Maybe let's go just check Gari Main, see if they haven't popped out on Gari Main. It's possible that they did. Their general direction is south, so you never know. But I don't think that these guys will be too far away. Darcy Ann agreed. Torchwood is a vortex. So is Buffalo's Hook at the moment. Every single leopard sighting has been on Buffalo's Hook of all places. It's not normally like that. The leopards are normally Djuma and Torchwood, and lions Buffalo's Hook. But of late, it's been all leopards, Buffalo's Hook, and lions Djuma, which has been weird. So yeah. What is that walking there? The ground hornbill. See it there? Just go straight up the road. There's something right up at the top of the road there. Walking. To the right, BK? It is a ground hornbill, isn't it? Yes, it is. There we go. It's a ground hornbill that's busy feeding in the grass. So, you know, how you can end up spotting something like that, but not lions, is beyond me. But anyway, we'll try and catch up and get a little bit closer to that ground hornbill because it's very far away. And so while I do that, let's send you to Tswalu Kalahari this morning. It's that time of the day where I'm sure it's going to become a firm favorite for everybody as the meerkats emerge from their burrows.
So morning, those of you who have just joined us, it's Dylan again and Yandre behind the camera there. We're just sitting at the meerkat burrows waiting for them to come up. It's a beautiful sunny morning here. Even those light clouds that were around just now, they seem to have dissipated mostly. So hopefully the meerkats are going to be up fairly soon. So we're just going to sit quietly here now and wait for them to show themselves. Yandre and I have taken bets as to which burrow they're going to come out in. So we'll see. We'll keep you posted. Sam has just asked if we find chameleons at Tswalu. And yes, we do, Sam. We do get chameleons here. We've only got one species that we're aware of, and that's called the flap-necked chameleon. And that's kind of the very common chameleon through the bush, or the savanna regions of southern Africa. It's not a great time of year now to find them, unfortunately. But we'll keep our eyes open. You never know. Maybe we're lucky. And chameleons are just the super coolest animals. Kathy Baker just asked if meerkats have territories, and yes, they do. So there's actually it's a good question because you can get a territory, a core territory that's defended the whole time, or you can get a home range, which they don't defend all the time, but they'll use that whole area. But these little guys are very territorial. There is always some degree of overlap. So if you've got this meerkat group over here, and then maybe 2 kilometers away you've got another little meerkat group, on the edges of their territories there'll be a bit of movement. This group will move in when the other group's not there, and they'll move back when the other group is there. But if they meet each other, then they'll defend it very, very aggressively. And we've actually recorded meerkats fighting and killing each other over territorial disputes. So, yeah. I think we've got about 10 minutes and they're going to be out. Popping their heads out, going back, popping out, going back. And now that I'm looking at the burrows from this angle, I think Yandra and myself are both going to be wrong on our bet on our burrow that they're going to come out at. I think they're going to come out at a burrow closer to us here. when we arrived at the burrows, there was a group of giraffe in the distance, and those tracks that we saw earlier, they'd actually been moving down in this direction. So I think it's probably that same group that had during the evening come down to drink water and move past the burrows. Luckily they actually didn't trample any of these burrows over here, so. But Yandra and I will just keep our eyes open. Maybe we might even see them in the distance here as we. And there's been a lot of jackals calling around here. Geesh, the guys are having it good this morning. I hear David's on looking for a leopard down in the sand. So please head over to him, and we're just going to keep tabs on these little guys and enjoy it.
We're giving it a last effort here on these tracks. We just came back to where we last had the tracks. And he's gone down into the drainage. The drainage that Alex and I just drove through, so maybe we drove past him, who knows. Looks like he's currently winning the hide and seek game of the leopard versus Alex and David this morning. Emma is 7 years old. You've asked, are we looking for leopard in the trees or on the ground? And right now, with this male, I'm more looking on the ground. Generally, I find them more on the ground. Especially during these cooler hours, you'll probably still be walking, maybe hunting. But your peripheral vision always kind of looks up a little bit, because there's always a chance they're in a tree. So you're correct, Emma, they do like to go up trees. They like it up trees because it's a vantage point. It's obviously a little bit cooler up there. Sometimes they catch a bit of a breeze. And other animals can't get to them. Other predators can't get to them. So when they've caught something to eat, they like to take it up a tree and eat it in peace. They don't have to rush their meal with the worry that a hungry hyena is going to come and scavenge from them, because nothing can get up into the tree. Every now and then you'll see a really hungry lion try and climb the tree to get to the leopard, but generally they aren't so good at climbing trees. So other than that, the leopard generally eats in peace, but you'll always find some hyena or something hanging around at the bottom waiting for some scraps to fall. Hilton, you've asked, do you leopard use oxpeckers? Sorry, it's very bright. I'm gonna have to squint you there. Hilton, they might use them, they might listen to the sound like we do to determine that there are mammals around. But oxpeckers, I've never seen an oxpecker sitting on a leopard, if that's what you mean. Leopard will have ticks that an oxpecker could eat, but I think an oxpecker knows that if if it goes and lands on a leopard's foot, it might get eaten. And a leopard are, even though they're big cats, they'll eat a bird. They'll even eat a mouse. So it wouldn't be too wise for the oxpecker to try and get the ticks off a leopard. It's warming up nicely here, Alex. Once the sun is out, then it gets warm nice and fast. I can almost take off my jacket. One of my favorite things to do in the early morning is to just close my eyes and look in the direction of the sun. Feel it warm your brain, warm the back of your eyelids, and just moves through your whole body, gives you a little bit of an energy boost. Some vitamin D for the day. I love giving it a good 10 seconds in the morning, just for a bit of a boost of energy. And that should be enough to warm me up. So, a lovely morning still. We're going to send you over to Tristan, who is still on the road.
Well, we are still tracking the Nkuhumas because they came back onto Djuma now. So I have no idea what's going on with them. They were mobile kind of south the whole way through Djuma, and now they've turned west and gone back north again, back towards the roads that we checked. And we didn't see any tracks coming out. So either they're further down and I just didn't go far enough, or they're lying between here and where the last track is, which was at Gwen, the hyena's old den. For those of you that are new, you wouldn't know Gwen, but she was part of our Djuma clan, and she had a den site to the south of us, and the lions walked straight past there. So I don't know why they would be changing direction so much. The buffalo tracks have disappeared, so it's not like they're on those anymore. It just seems very, very odd. Alright, I'm going to keep up with these tracks, see what's going on, see what's happening. In the meantime, though, let's send you back up to Ngala. They've got a big pachyderm.
We do indeed have an elephant bull, and what he's doing now is he's eating the root of, I think, a knobthorn. To his left, on his other side, there's a pushed over knobthorn, and it's quite likely that he pushed it over. So you can see now he's just trying to fiddle with it a little bit. He might just chew the outer layer, or he might chew the entire thing, because the roots will be quite nutritious, but also contain a lot of water, which would be nice for the elephant. So let's see, he might just pick up the rest of the root and then use his tusker again to pull it or try rip it out. And a bit more of the root he broke off a little bit earlier. While we sit with him, we drove the riverbed and we went past the den site, and there's a lot of tracks. Ah yes, yeah, pick it up. There we go. So I was twisting his trunk around, trying to get a better grip on it. Using the tusk to pull it out. You can actually see him shaking from side to side, trying to add weight. I got some of it there. It's quite funny how he's shaking his body side to side. Sarah, I think he looks a lot bigger in the camera. He's, no doubt, he's probably 5.5, nearly 6 tons, but not that huge. I was waiting for him to pick up the whole root again and try rip it out. But yeah, so we went past the den site in the river, and there's still tracks of the lioness going in and out of that area, but she might be on patrol now. So what we decided to do was drive the roads around to see if we can actually catch her on patrol, and that's when we came across this guy having breakfast. Yes, yeah, there we go. Still trying to pull that root out. See how he's curling his trunk around it and then puts it over his tusk and then pulls it out. That's why he's walking in this direction. He's trying to pull out the root. Wow. Looking at us like we're going to steal it. I'm not going to take your root. Got rid of a bit of dust there, flapping his ears at us. It's quite nice to see. You can see he's inserting the root from the one side to the other side. He's actually just chewing off the outside bit. So the cambium layer, it's the layer that transports all the nutrients, and it's just below the bark. It looks like he's almost just trying to get that bit off. See, they feed mostly by smell rather than sight. So what he's doing, he's looking straight at us, but using his trunk to sniff around. Roo, who's 8 years old, wants to know, why do elephants go through the trees if they can go around? Roo, I think if you are this big, you don't really care. No, so what happened here with the knobthorn, he would have pushed it down to try get to the roots, and often the leaves on top of the tree are the leaves that photosynthesize the most, so they'll be the nicest, most nutritious or sweetest leaves. So the elephants will push a tree over to try get to that, or to expose the roots, like what he did here. So yeah, it's a bit sad. But now with that knobthorn lying down on the ground, it will become a little microhabitat for birds like waxbills or things like that want to make little nests in it. It's a thorn tree, so it provides a lot of shelter. And remember the kudu we saw earlier? They could also now come and feed on that tree. Oh, you can hear another elephant behind us, also shaking his ears. So it's two bulls here. We can't exactly zoom out to the other elephant. Starting to see shade in the shade of my vehicle. So let me just move a little bit forward and see how close this guy is. Ah, okay. Right. I think we were blocking his route, which is why he flapped his ears at us. See, quite a younger animal, younger elephant. Younger male, a little bit smaller. Also see his ears are splayed out like that, almost in like a threatening position. I think we were just in his way. Of course, in his world, he's the biggest, most threatening animal out here, so he couldn't really believe. Okay, we're linking you to Tristan. He's found something really cool.
Guys, they just found the Nkumas, and they've just grabbed a warthog. So those of you that are sensitive, I'm going to warn you, it's going to be loud and it's going to be difficult, but they've just grabbed this. It came out of the hole and they've literally grabbed it as we turned the car off. Listen to this. There's no need for words. They are busy just making all the noises that we need to basically tell the story that is as old as time and the drama of what actually goes out here. Now, it is of course incredibly sad for this warthog that has been caught by these lions, but the power of these lions to bring down a warthog that quickly is absolutely... Wow. We've tracked them, we picked them up, we saw them sitting on the mound, we parked, and we were just getting ready to kind of take it easy with the pride for the morning, and this warthog came busting out, and this is the result. I just need to let the guys on the radio know. The stations have located in Kuma Pride. They've just killed an adult whale warthog just off Leadwood, north of the fire break at that prominent termite mound. On station look. You're more than welcome. They're literally just killing it now, so you can just make your way. I don't know how much will be left though. That was ridiculous and out of nowhere. They didn't even look like they were stalking. They were literally just sitting on the mound relaxing. And this big male warthog came flying out. And it was, funny enough, of all the lionesses to grab this particular warthog, it was Purple Eye with her injured hip. Can you believe it? The one that is the most kind of limpy and the one that's got the most sort of difficulties when it's walking is the one that actually grabbed this warthog first. The noise is just unbelievable. You can see the cubs are trying to find a space to feed, but no love is lost when it comes to feeding. The adult females will be pretty rough with the cubs during this period, and they're going to be covered in blood by the end of this because each one is going to try and force their way in. So let's just let the guys from the east know because shame they were looking for these lions too. Kyle, you're saying that it was so intense that it was still alive? Well, I'm afraid that's how lions eat, is when they catch something like this, particularly a pride, they're going to just go to town. One will grab it by the throat, and then the rest will just go crazy. What's going to be interesting, though, is to see if hyenas arrive, because obviously that squealing is very loud and the lion's feeding, and there were tracks for hyenas everywhere in this area that were actually on top of the lion tracks in places. So it's pretty incredible that they haven't arrived yet. I would have expected them to be here. I actually saw a mound the other day where I was wondering if maybe hyenas are using it as a den site because it's so well worn. It's either them or warthogs, so I must go back and actually check it. But with the amount of tracks, it could very well be hyenas. This is ridiculous, though. It just goes to show you it's always good to persevere. I mean, these tracks crossed out of our property twice, basically, and then came back in. And we could have just written it off and carried on, but we went and just double-checked to see if they would come back into our area, and they did. And like I say, it's just a matter of timing. BK and I were just taking it easy. BK? Yeah. Out of nowhere, buddy. You're crazy. And the audio is just unbelievable as well. Peter. Yeah, these guys have just killed a warthog north of the boundary. I'll keep you updated. They might go for water after it's finished. So I might head towards Trindam, so I'll keep you updated. Now the amazing part about all of this is that warthog right there is a big warthog. It was a massive male warthog, probably would have weighed in excess of 70-80 kilograms, and in the space that we've been watching, it's pretty much being decimated to just bone. You can see now everybody is trying to actually get a little bit of meat, but there's just literally bones. Even the legs are starting to disappear in the mess that is those lions, and they will consume everything from that warthog in the space of a few minutes. Whereas if it was a leopard that had caught a warthog of that size, it would have been 3 to 4 days worth of food for one leopard. So it gives you an idea of how quickly and how much food these guys need to eat. The interesting thing is though before they caught this warthog, they already had blood on them. So I don't know if they had already caught another warthog, and this is now the second one. I'm not quite sure, but they've definitely had eaten prior to catching this particular individual. Well, that went from a very placid morning. Patty, you're so right. From cute to terrifying in seconds. I know, but that's how it is out here. It just goes to show you it's small margins. I mean, we were talking about it yesterday with driving past these lions. It's like, it's just moments in time out here and fleeting glimpses of we get into these animals' lives. The thing about the wild areas of Africa is that there is so many different animals and how they fit in that, you know, life is incredibly sort of fragile in so many respects. You know, we were talking about mange on these lion cubs and how that can be difficult for them, and this warthog all of a sudden comes out and kind of gets grabbed and its life is ended, and that's how it is out here. It's a constant state of trying to survive. So the lions have their own problems, but the prey animals too, and everybody's got to kind of interact. And we know that yesterday the lions were looking a little bit skinny. And so this meal goes a long way to them keeping those immune systems up and trying to battle this mange that they're trying to overcome. So it's a kind of, yeah, I mean, it goes from these quiet moments to chaos, as you say, in a blink of an eye, and it will be over just like that too. By the end of this drive, all of these guys will be sitting, probably grooming themselves, sleeping in the shade, and this whole moment here will have just been a fleeting glimpse into the life of the lions and how survival works out here. Now, I believe a lot of you are really enjoying the sounds of these lions. It is incredible. Now, can you imagine a more fearful sound if you were sitting in the bush at night and you were stuck out here back in those days when we didn't have housing and electricity, and you hear this rumbling through the night? You would be absolutely petrified. These deep growls have an ability to make your spine tingle. Wow. Anna-Marie, no, lions don't have the best table manners, I'm afraid. When it comes to feeding, it's everybody grabs as much as they can and eats as much as they can, especially on a small carcass like this. While this warthog was very big, it's not big for this number of lions, and so they have to fight one another in order to get the nutrients they need. And you can see how the cubs try and wedge themselves in there. They're very brave when they do this, but you can also see how the females don't tolerate it. They fight with each other, they fight with the cubs. Everybody just tries to get the piece that they want. Now, we were talking about it last night. It just goes to show you, and it's kind of highlighted the point massively from what we were saying last night, is that patience and perseverance when it comes to animals is such a key thing. We were saying when we extended the show last night and followed these lions for a bit that the more time you spend with them, the more likely you're going to get some sort of behavioral aspect from them. And so we know over the course of the last few days, every time we've had tracks for this pride, we've tried to track them down and spend as much time with them as possible, and we've watched them sleep. Dave had them sleeping and then walking a little bit. Yesterday we had them walking a little bit and looking like they wanted to hunt, and eventually it's paid off in this morning and getting this incredible interaction that we've had. because, like I say, there's no reason to even have to talk through this. The lions most certainly are doing all the talking. I'm just going to keep quiet and you guys can just listen to this. It's really an incredible sound to be able to witness. Go ahead. Yeah, just keep coming all the way down as though you're going to the fire break. Just before the fire break, you'll find me here. They're still feeding, but yeah, make your way. This is unbelievable. There's something incredibly raw about watching these guys feed and the sounds that they make. Now, these moments are obviously incredibly difficult sometimes to watch, but also incredibly amazing in so many aspects. And for us to be able to show you guys all of these kind of things on a constant basis, we're going to need your support as much as possible in order to keep this coming to you. And so if you would just like to help us and like to carry on seeing moments like this, then we'd love for you guys to support using the link below. And like I say, hopefully there'll be a lot more incredible moments like this over the coming months and years. Just the most unbelievable sighting. Now you see that the pride got a little bit sort of spooked just because the vehicle arrived, and they might have thought something else was coming, hyenas or potentially male lions. If the evokers were anywhere near here, they would come charging in and they would probably steal this away from everybody. So they're going to be a little bit twitchy on a kill. They will start to settle down. I saw one ran off with a leg and a cub ran off with a chunk of meat as well. So listen to the cub calling. So little left, they're even licking the blood patch of where this warthog was killed. Liana, you say the sound is incredible. It is the most unbelievable thing to witness. I always say this when people ask me about lions on kills, is that yes, lions killing a buffalo and eating a buffalo is amazing. Listen to the cubs. Can you hear the cubs calling and crying? So what I was going to say is that as much as lions eating buffalo and things like that is amazing, lions on smaller kills, from an audio aspect, is just the most incredible thing that you can witness. The growls are almost deafening and they kind of vibrate you in a way, and there's this, like I say, very raw feel when you sit with this, watching them covered in blood, growling, and noises coming from every individual. Giraffe, Bill, you're saying the cubs are learning not to back down. I'm not so sure about that. I think the cubs are more learning the hardships of being involved with a dive and a kill. This is insane. You say under 5 minutes and gone? I know, ridiculous, isn't it? It's astounding to see how these guys eat. They are on another level when it comes to eating. Although I will say this, I have seen hyenas absolutely destroy carcasses as well. Some very unhappy females with one another. You would have noticed that she just regurgitated a whole bunch of stuff, so stuff that gets stuck in her throat, maybe a bit of bone, regurgitate it and just re-chew it quickly in order to get it down properly. Sarah, you say wow, just wow. Well, yeah. I mean, there's not really much else you can say about this. I actually would love to hear from all of you as to what your one word would be to describe this sighting. So you can just use hashtag WildEarth or @FC on the YouTube chats. One word to describe what this sighting was for you guys. It's always nice when we hear how you guys feel about sightings like this. It's obviously one thing for us to see it and to tell you about it, but it's always nice to hear how you guys kind of interpret things. But whew, it was quite something. There we go. Just bits of leg, basically, that are left. Amazing. Sherry, your one word is intense. Very intense. There is not much more that kind of invokes the word intense than lions on a fight, or fighting over a kill like this. And for two reasons. One is, like I say, there's this power and strength from the lion side of things, as well as this huge amount of competition that takes place. But I think the intensity also comes in the fact that you've sat here and you've watched an animal's life end, which is always very, very sad, and especially in such a brutal manner. That poor animal has been dragged from its burrow. Well, no, it wasn't dragged. It tried to make a run for it and got caught, and it was then started to be eaten alive, and that's an intense thing to witness. It's not an easy thing to witness. It's certainly not something that I always wish for people to see, but it is a reality of what we see out here. There's a reality that we have animals that eat meat and eat other animals, and so these things happen, and it is something that, while difficult to watch, can be fascinating and an incredible learning curve, and something that we in some ways need to feel privileged for being able to witness. Natural areas and the ability for us to watch animals is getting smaller and smaller, and so to be able to watch wild animals living their life and the struggles that they face is a pretty special thing in some regards. And like I say, it's not lost on me that there's an animal that's lost its life, but to witness this is both incredibly rare and like you say, intense. Joey from Hong Kong, you say bone chilling. I imagine a lot of people felt like that. Those noises and sounds and the tearing of that flesh certainly does send shivers down your spine. Isn't that incredible? An entire warthog gone. Christo, I think your one word is my favorite so far. So Christo's like, yo. And yo is a very South African way of kind of expressing disbelief in many respects. So, Christo, I can wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Sure. That was intense and quick and brutal and just unbelievable in so many ways, but so good to see the pride full and healthy. And like I say, my favorite part about this whole thing is the fact that it was Purple Eye that was actually the one that grabbed the warthog. If it wasn't for her, this warthog might have gotten away. There was one other that joined her pretty quickly, but she was the one that initially took the hit from this warthog and was the one that kind of grabbed it around the shoulders, and the others then could latch onto the rump area. And it just goes to show you, we talk about this often, injured animals and whether or not they can sustain and whether or not they're going to be okay, and should we intervene and should we interfere. And it just goes to show, when there is adrenaline and when there is a moment, these animals, even when they're injured and even when they look like they're not in the best of shape, they can still execute their job incredibly well. And I think it goes for this lioness, it goes for that Birmingham male. While he might not be able to, well, generally look as though he can do much, I think when adrenaline starts to hit and these animals are in a process of a fight or flight situation, they're able to then kind of do what they need to do. You can see Purple Eye, she's actually walking off on the distance there and she's limping, but well done, girl. You provided your pride with a meal, that's for sure. Incredible. Right, I think from the sublime to the ridiculous in many respects, from the sheer chaos of lions on a warthog kill, let's send you all the way to Tswalu Kalahari and Dylan with the cute meerkats.
So Gendre's camera is not the only thing that was frozen earlier. It's been pretty chilly, but these little guys have come out now. There's been some clouds covering the sun, so it's been like going into shade, sunlight, shade, sunlight. But they really are out of bed now properly and trying to warm up. And you can actually see, compare yesterday when they spent a lot of time playing around in that, to today where they're actually spending a lot of time just standing facing the sun, that there's been a drop in temperature already. There was also a ground squirrel that popped out a couple of minutes ago, so maybe if we're lucky he'll come out again. It was just a single individual, so they'll often inhabit these burrows within the same system, close to where the meerkats are. And what's interesting here is when he popped out, it was a single animal, and the meerkats were very, very interested, and they kept looking at him. So that tells me maybe it was just a squirrel that was dispersing from another group, and that is, it's the first time that he's been in this colony over here. He's quite nervous, it seems. Yes, I wish I could look this perky in the mornings. Oh, they are absolutely enjoying the sunlight. Scratch, scratch. Fleas. Once they've warmed up a little bit, the little ones should start playing around, which will be quite fun to watch. Everyone's watching Genre there. So it's always a trade-off with animals in terms of So Moses has just asked how hot it gets at Tswalu, and that question that he's just asked leads me on to what I was about to say. So Tswalu can get hot. You know, we can go into the mid-40s occasionally. That's centigrade, obviously. Sorry, now there's a squirrel right behind Jandre, literally behind. But anyway, we'll come back to him. But yeah, so Tswalu can get hot, and then the coldest temperature that we've ever experienced here is really on the opposite end of the spectrum. That goes down to -9 degrees Celsius. So yeah, those are pretty extreme temperatures. And what I was going to say about animals is obviously there's different ways that animals can try prevent getting too hot or too cold, and that could be behavioral. In other words, if it's very hot, you could stand in the shade of a tree, you could go underground. But then there's also, as just two examples, you could drink more water, you could pant, you could also, if your physical adaptations, you could have dense fur or you could have less fur. If you look at these little meerkats here, they've got nice, fairly dense fur on the back, but you'll see that they're also sticking it up. You can actually see that very, very clearly at these ones that are standing up in front of us here. Now, all their hair is sticking up. And that actually helps trap heat against the skin to keep them warm. The temperature now is sitting at, again in Celsius, you're probably looking at about 13 degrees, 12, 13 degrees. So it's still pretty cool. And that's why they're warming themselves. Stretching, that one's having a good stretch. Sorry, Salalaleyo, please just repeat that question again. Yes, so meerkats do groom each other, and it's a very, very, very important of their group bonding. And you see it in a lot of social animals. The lions that you've been following down in the sands, you may have seen it this morning already or on previous feeds. When they get up and start getting going, and even when they lie down again, there'll be like a lot of social grooming and that. So meerkats do that same thing as well, and that's crucial for maintaining those bonds between the group. You might even see them starting to do it now. Soon, soon, soon. Nope. Just because I said it, they won't do it. That's how it works. See, they're all trying to stand so they're not in it, or there's no shade on them. And if one stands in front of them, they'll move it. Well, these little guys are going to be warming themselves up to a while, so I think head over to Tristan and yeah, enjoy that sighting on that side.
Indeed, we are enjoying the sighting. Just the sound alone is unbelievable. As they're still going at it at this stage, they're still making a lot of noise. Such a polarizing sighting in so many ways, particularly now because you've got this visceral raw, growling, horrible kind of spine-chilling sound mixed with these cute little lion cub contact calls. It's Maureen, the cubs actually have. You'll be surprised how innovative they are in terms of squeezing their way through impossible gaps, and they use their cute factor and their bonds with their mothers to sneak their way in as close as possible. And you can see, look at them go. They try and kind of get in and squeeze themselves into a point where they can get food. So they've actually, all of them have got fairly round tummies, which is good. I saw one that was trotting off just now that made me laugh so much while you guys were away. It had a leg in its mouth and it looked like it was the king of the world. It was running with its head up as though I have just stolen a leg from everybody else, and quickly shot off into a little thicket and went and hid, and is probably chomping away on that leg right now, but the leg is almost bigger than it was. It was very cute to see. Right, so, I mean, obviously this was a major kind of rush to get you guys across, and so you might not have seen the kind of beginning of it. So what we did is we took from what we were able to record. Obviously it happens very quickly, and we've slowed it down. So those of you that do want to see kind of the initial part of it, not the water coming out, but it kind of being grabbed, we're going to show you now. But those of you that don't, it's probably a good time to turn away. And what you'll see is the warthog is grabbed, and then all these lions just start to come in. You can see the dust cloud, and this poor warthog just didn't stand a chance at all. As it came down the mound, it already had 2 lionesses on its back, and we just rolled it over, and then from there everybody just came in. But it was interesting to see how quickly the cubs were there when they saw this warthog come out. They knew straight away that the mother was going to grab them. So there we go. That's basically what we got. I mean, unfortunately, BK was actually busy leveling the camera and getting it all sorted out, getting prepped, because Ndeke in Final Control was going to come to us, because we had a beautiful view of Purple Eye just sitting on this really nice sighting of her just sitting there, and it was pretty, and BK was just getting all his camera stuff sorted out, and then it came out. So by the time he kind of caught up with this warthog and he was able to press record, that's kind of what we got. But it's incredible how quickly they are onto that warthog. It's amazing to see these lions move. They're big animals, they're bulky, but they are seriously efficient when it comes to things like that. And it's going to be interesting to see, in a pride of this size, while the cubs are still quite small, a meal like this is a fairly good meal for this pride. Each one of them will at least have a little bit of a tummy. Everyone will look as though they've had a certain bit of food. But as these cubs are growing, warthogs like this are going to be not going to really sustain them. But I'm sure they'll just take any opportunity they can. At the end of the day, meat is meat. And these guys obviously need to get any nutrients they can. And for the cubs that have got mange at the moment, they will most definitely be a welcome meal. It's going to help just keep that immune system nice and strong. Healthy, full cubs generally are able to beat off the mange and survive it. Just amazes me how you go through these lulls in these sightings where it gets a little bit quieter, and then all of a sudden it's pandemonium again, and it becomes loud and aggressive like when you first came to us. But Rob, you say you got to love Purple Eye, most definitely. Just goes to show you, experience. There's no substitute for experience. Even in her compromised state, her experience and her willingness to help the pride is kind of there for all to see. So it's always incredible watching older lionesses within pride. I think that they really are the ones that people bond to the quickest. and it's generally because of their ability to display such sort of wisdom within the pride, and they generally are quite nurturing towards the cubs that they have, and like I say, they lead the prides pretty well. So she's obviously now filling in from the previous oldest lioness within the Nkuhuma pride, who was in her own right also a very, very, very stoic character. She had that incredibly bad hip injury for so long, and yet she still was able to kind of keep everything together and move everybody around. So they're always special, the older lionesses, and anything that's got some sort of disability in the form of a blind right eye and a dodgy hip, and yet is still able to be an integral part of a social ecosystem like these lions, and do the hard yards, which is, I mean, taking down a warthog's no joke. That thing is powerful and it is strong. And I mean, she got literally barreled into by this warthog, and she still tackled it, and there's tusks and there's all kinds of things that can go wrong when tackling warthogs. Many a leopard has come short, and lions, with those tusks getting them in the chests and around their legs and causing nasty injuries. So for her to go after it is pretty incredible, and to have the power, even with that leg, which would have been her anchor point. Remember, when lions grab food, they're using their front legs to grab, and their back legs are their anchoring point, so they sort of drop their tails down, and then they hold on, and that tries to keep the animal close to them. And so for her to do that with a compromised back end gives you an idea of just how strong her front end must be, and her kind of midsection, to be able to just keep holding on and kind of slow it down enough that the others can join in and then help her feast in the kill. Pretty incredible. But it's typical that the last two fighting over food is one of them is Amber Eyes. Wouldn't have expected anything less. She's generally the one that gets involved in most altercations when it comes to these things. Now, a lot of that growling that you're hearing is actually the cubs, which is pretty incredible as well. Dylan, difficult to know. I mean, most lion prides don't actually have a matriarch, if you want to call it that. They have obviously an oldest female, and generally she is the one that will, with maybe one or two others, her daughters or close sort of lionesses that she has with her, will kind of lead where they go. But it's not a matriarchal system. Like I said, it's more experience based, that there's one that will kind of know where things are more than others. But I find in the Nkuhuma pride, you'll find Purple Eye is the one in front, and then or one of the ones in front with Amber Eyes generally there or thereabouts, and often they actually follow Amber Eyes first before they'll follow Purple Eye. So difficult. Ridge Nose also sometimes is in front, so it really depends with these guys. I don't think there's an established hierarchy within the Nkuhumas. I think the nice thing with them is that they've got these 4 older females, and those 4 older females are the ones that really kind of control what goes on within the grouping. All right, sure. You catch your breath. This has been chaos this morning. So while we enjoy everything starting to settle down a little bit, let's send you back across to David.
What exciting news about the lion and that kill. That is very, very cool. Well done to Tristan for finding them. Well, it's been a lot more peaceful this side. No snarling and biting, other than Mr. Giraffe feeding on a tree. Watch him gingerly pick around those huge thorns. JC, you reckon it's nice to have a breather from the lion? As much as it's lovely to see those big cats in action, it is quite intense, isn't it? That's the beauty of the bush to me. It's intensity mixed with utter peace and tranquility. those beautiful patterns. Dark and the white. This bull's got some lovely dark patches. Giraffe differ quite a bit in their coloration. He's on the darker side. It's interesting, in Africa you find that the trees that giraffe prefer generally have thorns. The reason for that is that the most nutritious trees out here have thorns to protect themselves from over-browsing. So if they didn't have thorns, the giraffe and kudu and other species that browse would be able to just eat at will and eat very quickly and take off a lot of leaves. And of course the leaves are important for photosynthesis and the tree's ability to grow and survive. So by having those thorns, the giraffe is forced to eat gingerly. Of course they've got very tough tongues and tough skin on their faces, as you can see, but they still have to pick around the thorns. It's a very delicious, nutritious tree, and if it didn't have thorns, it might be susceptible to over-browsing or overeating. A lot of the trees around that are less nutritious don't have any thorns. Dylan, you've asked, can giraffe hear a lion making noises? They most certainly can. Look at how big those ears are, Dylan. Big ears. Better to hear you with, my dear. Big eyes, better to see with. Like the wolf in Red Riding Hood, animals have big ears, especially the herbivores. They need to be able to hear very well, and they will most certainly hear a lion. Their hearing is far better than ours. If you watch an animal like this, every so often you'll pick up his head and look around, give a listen, just to make sure there's nothing approaching him. I don't know if you heard that cracking, but there's an elephant just off to our left, it sounds like. Perhaps we'll quickly go have a look after spending a few more minutes with this giraffe. Just hearing the elephant break branches as they feed. Look at that huge tail, like a big whip. Always busy keeping the flies off. Always busy keeping those pesky flies away. It's always sad when you see a giraffe that has lost its tail. Oftentimes they'll use their tail in a attempted attack from a hyena or a lion. And then it's just got a little stub that wiggles around trying to keep the flies away, although not doing very well. James Johnson, you've asked, do they get protein in the leaves that they browse? And they do. There's protein in leaves. Protein and carbohydrates, sugars, everything that they need to stay healthy and strong. Of course, a lower protein content than you would get in meat. And for that reason, herbivores have to eat a lot more than predators. That's why we see herbivores, browsers and grazers, eating for much of the day. They have to get in a lot of salad to maintain their body condition, whereas you'll see predators only eating every couple days, depending on the species. Look how long those legs are. Those legs can deliver very powerful kicks. Many a lion has been killed by a giraffe kick. Speaking of lion, let's head over to Tristan and the Nkuhumas, who are busy digesting some protein.
They are indeed. They're almost done now. It's really quietened down quite a lot since obviously the initial part of it. There's two females still fighting a little bit over the last scraps, and basically it's down to the point where they're just licking the bones now. And it's interesting to watch lions when they feed. Initially it's kind of big chunks of flesh that they pull off, and then as it gets to this point, then they start to use those tongues with those little hooks on them, and they basically just strip the bones of all the meat, and there'll be very, very, very little left of this for hyenas or vultures or anything like that. In fact, I doubt vultures will even come to this. There wouldn't be enough to interest them. What might happen is the bateliers might come here. It's very close to the batelier nest, and so they might come and land and scrounge around a little bit, but there'll be very little left, bar maybe a skull. The skull of an adult male warthog is quite large and is quite thick, and so I doubt that that's going to get eaten too much. It will get licked and kind of pulled apart a little bit, but the skull itself will probably be fairly intact, and it will be interesting to come here tonight or tomorrow, depending on where these lions move. I'm almost sure these lions are going to walk to Twin Dams at some point during either today or during the day or this evening, and then it'll be interesting to come and see just the size of that warthog and give you a kind of idea of just how big it is and the tusks and things like that. But it was a substantial male, that's for sure. Bulky individual, and like I say, put up as valiant an effort as possible, which is all you can really ask for. Yeah, like I say, these things always are difficult for me. I don't know why. I don't like watching animals being killed. It's not the nicest thing. As a guide, we get a lot of people that it's the first thing they ask. When was the last time you saw a kill? Or when can we see a kill? Or I want to see a kill. And to be honest with you, while it is exciting and it is incredible, like I say, to watch the power of predators in action, just watching an animal's life ending is for me quite sad sometimes. It's the same as, in this situation, some people would celebrate the fact that we watched a warthog get killed, and it's great that the lions got food and that the warthog was taken and all those kinds of things. But had that been a leopard, would our response to it have been the same? Which is an interesting way to look at things, and I think you've got to, when you're out here, and you've got to realize that these things that take place, I think there should be equal value placed on everything. And I know that's a difficult thing for us as humans, because a warthog is not as charismatic or evokes as much emotion as a big cat, but at the end of the day, it should have every right to be celebrated and to be looked at as any other of the creatures out here. And like I say, when something difficult happens to them, I think there should be that same sadness in some respects. Victoria, yep, it's a shock to a lot of people. And this one has actually lasted fairly long because the boys are not here. If the boys were here, it would have been even worse. I've seen an impala male that was stolen from a leopard. The leopard brought it down and hadn't even eaten it, and the Styx Pride came running in and they grabbed it. And at the time, I can't remember how many there were, but I think it was about 8 of them, 7 or 8 of them. And that impala carcass was, I think it lasted something like 3.5 minutes or something close to that, and it was just the horns that were left. So when they get going, they are quite ferocious at feeding. I mean, wild dogs catch a bad rep because of the way that they feed, but you can see lions feed exactly the same way, depending on the size of the animal. So while that warthog was alive, they were eating just like wild dogs would do, and just with as much ferocity as wild dogs do. So I always feel bad for dogs. So they get this unnecessary tag to them that, you know, they are cruel and they are animals that, you know, kill other animals by ripping them apart, and it's disgusting. But like I say to you, lions are no different. They do the exact same thing. The good thing, though, for the animal that gets killed is that it goes into a state of shock pretty quickly. And from what people that are in the know tell me, is that as they go into that state of shock, generally the pain element is actually not even there, and they even though they're being eaten alive, they've kind of sort of gone past that already, and it's not as bad as it looks, but it's still difficult to watch, that's for sure. I see one or two lionesses getting up already. I wonder if they're not going to start making their way towards Twin Dams. You know, they're going to want water after all of this commotion. And even though they got blood off the warthog itself, there will still be a situation where they'll want to go and just top up with some fresh water. And they might actually not even use Twin Dams. They might just go into the Mulawati. There's so many nice elephant holes that have been dug that are seeping water that is cleaner than what Twin Dams would be, that they might head there. But given that it's quite a number of lions, they often, when they walk to water, they line up and everyone tries to find a place to drink, and so maybe they'll head towards the dam rather than the drainage line. But either way, I suspect that they'll still be here this afternoon, which will be good for David. Poor David has had a tough time of it, which I can sympathize with, because we've also had a bit of a tough run. But as we've said all along this week, is that a bit of patience, a bit of perseverance, and, you know, eventually the rub of the green will break your way, and you start to see things again. And so I'm pretty sure Dave is in for a good sighting soon. I know he wants to see a leopard really badly as well, so I'm hoping that one will pop out for him. It's always one of those things when we're out here, is that I think you've got to revel in your peers' success rather than your own in a lot of respects. I mean, we often, you know, sit and talk about things here, and we're a bunch of guides that are quite close. It's probably the closest I've been to my fellow guides than in most lodges. And I think the part of that is that we all enjoy each other finding and seeing cool things. I mean, there's no competition really, and there's very seldom is there really arguments that take place amongst us. And I think that's the thing, is that I think you actually get rewarded for having those kind of outlooks rather than trying to just compete with each other and outdo each other. That's for sure. So, well, that's at least how I feel about it. Maybe others don't, but, you know, I think we're all in this together, and we're all trying to achieve the same objective at the end of the day. So it's nice to, like I say, revel in other people's success, and I do hope that Dave gets some success. And Rowan actually too, because Rowan had a tough day the other day when he was out. So Rowan at Ngala, would be nice for him to get what he's looking for this afternoon as well. Maybe both of them will find their lilac-breasted roller today. It's a shame that Bird gave them a run around the other day. It's amazing how that happens when you're looking for something common and it's just not there. Exactly, there we go. And I mean, that applies to this entire sighting. Success as a whole and not a singularity. There's a lot of sort of double entendres in that particular sentence, because at the end of the day, we've got a lioness, or a lion pride, that as a whole has managed to overcome a singular animal in the form of the warthog. The warthog has been killed because ultimately it wasn't part of a grouping. If it was part of a grouping, maybe it was the one that would get away. And that then also applies to us as a community. And like I said, it's not just us as guides, it's the Final Control cameramen, guides, all of you watching. As a unit, we can make this move forward rather than, you know, trying to do it all on our own as individuals. So, yeah, it's a good thing. See, we can learn lots of lessons from nature. I think as humans, we sometimes think we're cleverer than what we really are, and we sometimes don't watch nature and or see nature and actually learn from it, and we don't take in that there's a lot of things that happens in nature on a day-to-day basis that if we as humans stuck to, we would probably be better off than what we are at the moment. Alright, we're going to sit here with these guys. We're going to enjoy just the last bit of it. I'm still surprised a single hyena hasn't arrived. But while we enjoy this, let's send you across to David, who's in the company of a large grey animal.
A small version of a large mammal, what we've got here. A couple of youngsters. And here comes a big mommy with her youngster. These are the elephant that we heard breaking branches when we were sitting with that giraffe. Generally what alerts you to an elephant's presence is the snapping of a branch. Sometimes it even sounds like a gunshot. Whereas when they're just walking through the bush, they're actually very quiet. Many a time in our tented trails camp where I run safaris, they will walk straight to the camp at night and no one would have heard them. They walk very quietly. Even in this thick bush, they barely make sounds. Just the occasional stick scraping along the rough skin that you might hear. But should they happen upon a predator, then the sounds and the decibels increase dramatically. Elephant really do not like predators. For example, if they were to now walk into where the nkuhumas are lying, there would be lots of trumpeting and rushing around. Often been alerted to the presence of a predator by following up on the squeals and shrieks and trumpeting of elephant that have happened upon a predator. Elephants are the best, aren't they, Sarah? I agree. It's just lovely spending time with them. As they disappear into the bush, let's send you over to Tswalu with an update.
So this little guy that we've got here is called an armored ground cricket. And in Afrikaans, one of the local languages, we call it a koringkrik, which means a corn cricket, or translates to a corn cricket. And this season, we've seen an abundance of them. They are heavily reliant on good rainfall. So if you go through seasons when your rainfall is below average, you'll have less of them coming out, hatching out. And in seasons where you've had good rainfall, like this year, you can get absolutely millions of them. We're very lucky to see this little one. There's still quite a few of them around, but 2-3 weeks ago, this place was just inundated with them, and they are really cool. I know not everyone's cup of tea, but they certainly are my cup of tea. So he's going into defense posture there. And I'm going to try to get my mic a little bit closer because you might actually hear him giving him his warning call. Can you hear that? That's really cool, eh? So that's, I mean, they can't do much if something threatens them, but they give that warning call. They've got spikes on the top. Okay. And that's, again, a defense if something tries to grab them. And if that fails, if you actually grab hold of it, which I'm not going to do, they actually spray from the back where those horny protuberances are there. They actually spray this yellow liquid, and it's pretty distasteful. But that aside, I mean, we get so many things out here eating them. And I've heard it before, people saying, nothing eats them, they're useless little creatures, and, why do they have to be around? I've seen Corrie bustards, these huge ground-dwelling birds eating them. I've seen jackals eating them, meerkats eating them, including the pups here. Even the pups will eat them. Hornbills, mongoose. So they're actually super important in terms in the ecosystem. They can be frustrating. At home, I grow indigenous plants, and I've got a number of indigenous aloes, these little succulents. And this season, not a single flower is going to come out, because as those flower buds got to about this height, my wife and I, we were laughing. We counted over 200 of these little guys in our greenhouse, and they absolutely polished everything down to ground level. So, yeah, they kind of like alternate between one of my favorite little insects and one of my least favorite insects. But anyway, so he's just warming himself now, and we're just going to carry on taking an amble down the road over here and leave him to his devices. Thanks, little guy. I believe David has a sighting of a baby elephant, so head over to him while Yandre and I just carry on down there and see what we can find.
Well, we've just gotten a better visual of Mom and the youngster. See, she's paying us some attention now. We kind of bumped into her as we came around this corner in the road, and it's an interesting example of elephant comfort zones. We actually slightly infringed on her comfort zone, but instead of reversing and causing more engine noise, we just switched off. Hopefully she relaxes a little bit as she's doing. The elephant have a very distinct comfort zone, and that comfort zone can be large or it can be small. And it's up to us to determine that. As you came to us, you saw that her head was up and ears were out. And that was an indication that she's starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. We were just on the verge of that comfort zone, like I said. It was accidental. We came around the corner. But by switching off and talking calmly, she's accepted our presence. Very intuitive animals, very emotional animals. And for that reason, I think these are probably a firm favorite of mine to spend time with in the bush. Sassy Cassie, you say these are truly majestic creatures. Majestic is a brilliant adjective to describe them. Interesting, she's only got one tusk. The other one must have been broken at some stage. Their tusks are tools and they go through a lot of wear and tear, so it's not uncommon to see a broken one from time to time. while. You've asked, will the elephant ever get near the tents as they've walked through, and they definitely do. Often at times you'll actually hear their bodies scrape on the tents as they walk through, because the tents are situated on a path and there's not much space, so as they squeeze past they'll sometimes leave a little bit of mud or dirt on the tents, and oftentimes they're very curious as to what the tents are, and they can definitely smell you. They know that you're in there, and they'll have a little bit of an inspection sniff, which is evident in the morning when you come out of your tent and you see a big slobbery streak on your tent where their wet nose, wet trunk had a sniff on the canvas. But nothing to worry about. Like I said with the elephants, when they're coming into your comfort zone, it's generally all good. You just keep calm and they stay calm. Beautiful animals, very emotional animals, and they really pick up on the vibe that you're giving off. Speaking about vibey, let's send you back to the Nkuhuma Pride and see what they're up to.
As you can see, there's still a lot of growling and grunting taking place between this lioness and her little cubs. She's not impressed at all. Isn't that amazing? Just those noises. She spends so much time growling, she actually doesn't eat much. And you can see what I was talking about earlier, how the little ones actually get in there. Talking about how they do get food, and it's because you see how they worm their way in, even like almost underneath her, as they try and grab little bits, and you can hear them actually feeding and her growling. It's amazing. Always going to growl, you're not going to get any food. Your cubs are going to eat everything from underneath your nose. You can see they're just going through the skin now and the last little bits. Tumbles, you're asking why she's growling so much? Growling is a way of expressing anger, disgust, or emotions is probably a better way to do it. And so much like we would shout if we were upset with somebody, this is her basically warning them. So stay away, I'm growling at you because I'm going to lash out at you if you come any closer. How's that? Now, what the amazing part about this is, for me, is how that cub doesn't stand down. You see how the cub fights back? So the cub is not interested in taking nonsense, and this is how they learn that they need to fight in order to gain a place at the carcass. And the difference is if you look at the one on the left, watch the one on the left that's crawling in now. That's the right one, the one on the other left, that one over there. Watch how submissive it is. It's got its head down and slowly, one paw at a time, trying to crawl its way forward. Look, you see? Because it doesn't want to get seen approaching the carcass, but it's going to slowly try to worm its way in, and once it's got a place where it can actually get to the meat, then it's at least fine. But it's a much more submissive behavior. The one on the left is far more... Look how sneaky that is. You're a very sneaky little one. But that just shows you these cubs can take an absolute beating, and they're not afraid to lash out back at the adults when they are wanting food. And a lot of the cuts and scrapes you see on lines is all from each other at a carcass like this. But the growling is her trying to warn the cub, stay away, this is my piece of meat, I want it, I don't want you near it. And then when they don't listen and they get too close to her, that's when they lash out and they try and discipline the cubs. But the cubs obviously will fight back too and try and gain the place that they want. This is super, super interesting to watch. What an incredible sighting. This lion on the left is my favorite. It's being so sneaky. You see, one paw is now moved and it waits and look. This is the game of displacement behavior. This is like elephants when they watch you and pretend to feed. The cub is like, no, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to do anything, but I'm going to just go a little bit closer. You naughty little thing. And as soon as she kind of looks away, then it just moves a little bit further forward. Look. It seems to be working. It's a good tactic so far. This looks like the Wild Earth crew at breakfast time. Look at it. This little one is making me laugh. You can see it's almost expecting. Well, Cheryl there answers your question. Why doesn't she just grab it and go? She did just grab it and go, and has left the cubs foodless. A third one was too much. I think it's a little young boy. That was the one that was creeping in, and it was too much for her to have a third one, and now she's got her own. And you see, as soon as the others aren't there, look at how quiet she is now. But she's exerted so much energy protecting this that she's now hot and bothered and is panting. But there we go, look. See, quiet now. And that's that. And that is all that is left of that warthog. It's crazy. It's literally just some skin and a couple of ribs. Go, girl, eat now. You've got a chance to eat by yourself. Sure, that was quite something. Those cubs are vicious. Did you see how that small cub grabbed the bigger cub on the nose? They don't take any nonsense, these guys, at all. Amazing to watch the dynamics. Oh, here comes more trouble because this Ambias knows one of the other ones that's coming in to investigate. I wouldn't be surprised that there's quite a bit of growling that takes place if she walks towards this other lioness. As I was saying, when they find each other, then you find that they give each other quite a bit of... there she goes. She's picked it up now. I wonder if she's going to walk away with it. It's okay, girl. Why don't you eat and then you won't have to worry? Now, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this as much as BK and I have. BK has been smiling non-stop from behind the camera. As a cameraman, these are the kind of sightings that dreams are made of. They're good for one's show reel and career to be filming sightings like this. And so if you have enjoyed it, we'd love for you guys to support us. You can just use the support link below, so that hopefully we can bring you a lot more of these incredible moments from Africa. Wow. Sure, that was good. Can't believe how big these sub-adults, well, they're not sub-adults, they're adults now. The lionesses that were the previous cubs, how big they are now. They're just kind of fully formed lions and fully functioning members of the pride. Cubs are arguing still. This lioness on our left is slowly kind of coming in this direction. Let's see now what's going to happen. Look at how angry she gets when that other one approaches. So now, often a lot of people ask us about, okay, cubs, settle down. A lot of people ask us about what happens when you walk into lions and what the sounds are that lions will make. What you saw her do right there, flatten her ears, tail going, and her growling, is what happens if you walk too close and they don't want you any closer and they want to be aggressive towards you. That's what you're going to be met with. And so a lot of people kind of wonder about that aggressive response from lions, and that's exactly what you hear and what you see. And I can assure you, when you're walking and you hear that coming from a bush and you are within, 10, 15 meters of it, it makes your blood go cold and your spine tingles. It is not a nice sound to hear, and especially when you see that tail just starting to flick in front of you. You know that when she's like that, that's when she's upset. Rather than just trying to get away, she's going to stand her ground and potentially come at you. So not a nice thing to see when they do that. And that's exactly the same thing she's doing to these other lions. Is she's warning them. She's saying, you come any closer and we're going to have a problem. This is her saying, leave me alone. I'm in control of this carcass. Phew. Madness this morning with these lions. And this is why a lot of people love lions. This is why a lot of people want to spend time with them, is because of this interaction and these social nuances that you see within prides around kills, and then you kind of see it's change, and then it's these guys all this afternoon will probably be loving each other, grooming each other, and it will all be very cute and cuddly. It's crazy to see the difference between the dynamic shift when there's food involved. Okay, we're going to sit here, we're going to enjoy the last little bit of our morning with these guys. In the meantime, we're going to send you back to Tswalu Kalahari with Dylan. I'm not sure what he's up to, but I'm sure it will be entertaining.
So we're back at the nest that we were at yesterday. I was hoping to find a cobra. I know there's a resident cobra that hangs around this area. And now that it's getting warmer, I thought maybe we might actually find him starting to sun himself. But it might still be a little bit too early, I think. And you will just check these nest chambers. And I think I'm actually going to, over the next couple of days, I'm going to enlist the help of our researcher, Tilo, who's working on these Cape Cobras and boomslang. And hopefully Tilo can actually locate one of their study subjects for us, because that'll be really cool to see. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything here. So these nests in some are you've got to be quite careful of them as well sometimes, aside from the snakes. But you get these beautiful big brown wasps, the Belenagaster wasps. And they make these nests, paper nests, underneath these weaver nests. And sometimes you're not thinking and you want to come look for a pygmy falcon or a snake, and you stand here and like, oh yeah, this is great, and next thing these wasps just come out after you. But anyway, I'll chat with Tilo and see if we can set something up over the next couple of days to try hopefully find a cobra. And I think let's head over to Tristan on that side, and we're just going to carry on bumbling down here. Have an amazing day further, and we'll see you later.
Well, it seems like a lot of really nice links in our morning's activities. We've had a lot of social elements in it, from sociable weavers to community nest spiders to lion prides, and how all of these animals that require social interactions function and fit together. It's pretty interesting to see the kind of similarities and the differences, obviously, in all of these particular animals that live in groupings and rely on groupings in order to survive. But as you can see, things have settled right down now. This lioness has made enough of a point to everybody else to warn them to stay away, and so she's now actually eating the head at the moment, which is well, it's quite disconcerting when you see the kind of ears and the eyes looking at you and moving around. You can see the tusk just sticking out of the grass there, as well as she kind of finishes it up. And like I say, by this afternoon there will be nothing left of this, and I suspect even these lions will have moved off and are either down in the Mulwati or they're at Twin Dams, go for water. I don't know if they'll still be in this particular spot, but I'm hoping that they do stick around. Like I said, it'll be nice for Dave to catch up with them this afternoon. You never know what these guys can get up to, and that's the thing, is that even though they're full, they could very well hunt again if they're close to water and something comes down. So it's worthwhile spending time with them. As you can see, we've got lions all around us still. This is one of the one. Well, this is the one that's got the little mark on her left lip, upper lip. You can see there's like a little sort of black marking there. So she's quite nice to ID from that. Looking beautiful. I must admit, the adults all look good. They all look really healthy and strong, particularly now after a meal. They're looking really, really nice. Unfortunately, though, that is all for the morning. It is that time of the day where we need to start saying our goodbyes to all of you. Hopefully you had a wonderful morning with us. Hopefully you enjoyed all the beautiful sights as well as the intense sighting that this was. And we will see you all this afternoon. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to having you on our sunset safari.